who is admired by all civilized people everywhere, in effect. Look at St. Thomas. Look at the way he debated with people. First of all, if you look at his Summa Theologiae, or Summa Theologica, you see that it's arranged according to questions and answers. Thousands of questions he raises. Incidentally, I used to put on my quizzes, yes, I'm admitting on camera that I gave multiple choice quizzes at the college level. I did that just to make sure they read their books, which they didn't, but I gave them the quizzes all the same. And one of the wrong answers I gave was, the church told people not to ask questions. Now, if you were even slightly listening to anything I was saying, there's no way you'd circle that answer. You wouldn't believe how many of them would circle it. I could have spent the whole semester standing up there saying the church fostered a culture in which questions were routinely asked. Wouldn't have made any difference. They've already been told the church hates knowledge. And so they all circled the wrong answer. Well, in any event, St. Thomas Aquinas asked question after question after question. And if you notice the style of his writing, you notice the organization of it. He and other scholastics debated things in this way. They would take some question, and then they would consider all the possible objections to their own position and list them out. And then they would explain their own position. And then they'd go back and they'd answer the objections. And he did this for question after question after question. It's an extraordinary achievement. It's fascinating reading. And what's great about it is that St. Thomas was generous toward his opponents. St. Thomas wouldn't just make up some ridiculous argument, attribute it to his opponents, and then say, aha, I triumphantly answer this person. No, he would present his opponent's arguments as persuasively as he could. At least try to make it a little interesting, right? He would portray it as accurately as possible and as persuasively as possible. In fact, in some cases, St. Thomas would even think up arguments that his own opponents hadn't even thought of. And he would say, well, wait a minute, you guys also have this argument and this one. I'll give you those, and then he'd answer those. I mean, that is an honest debater. That's what Western intellectual life was like. And you see it in St. Thomas. It's organized in effect, the format of a debate, an ongoing debate with antagonists. That is an extraordinary achievement. That is what our Western civilization is about. It's not just uniformity, it's debate and discussion. Now, one of the great historians of science in our day is a man named Edward Grant. And he looked back at these medieval universities not long ago, and he found something very, very important there. And he said this, he said, what made it possible for Western civilization to develop science and the social sciences in a way that no other civilization had ever done before? The answer, I am convinced, lies in a pervasive and deep-seated spirit of inquiry that was a natural consequence of the emphasis on reason that began in the Middle Ages. With the exception of revealed truths, reason was enthroned in medieval universities as the ultimate arbiter for most intellectual arguments and controversies. It was quite natural for scholars immersed in a university environment to employ reason, to probe into subject areas that had not been explored before, as well as to discuss possibilities that had not previously been seriously entertained. And Professor Grant went on to say that the commitment to reason and rational discussion that we see in the Middle Ages and that we see in our modern world, this is one of the great gifts of the Latin Middle Ages to our world. But nobody knows about it. And he said it must, unfortunately, remain one of the best-kept secrets of the past hundreds of years. Isn't that astonishing? We shouldn't keep it a secret, however. We should go around telling people about this, because it's an extraordinary aspect of our civilization. Let's just end with St. Anselm, for example, is another example of what I'm talking about. St. Anselm, although he lived just before the universities were getting started, but he had the same spirit of rational inquiry. St. Anselm, for instance, had a book in Latin, Cur Deus Homo, which has been usually rendered in English as Why the God-Man, or Why Did God Become Man? Because St. Anselm used purely rational argument to try to consider, why did God do the extraordinary? Why did he become man and dwell among us? If he wished to reconcile the human race to himself, why did he not simply make a declaration from heaven. Why did he become man? And St. Anselm explained this by using his own reason, thinking about it. But what St. Anselm is known for the most, perhaps, among philosophers, is that he asked another rational question: does God exist? And he began to use reason to try to uncover the answer to that question. Does God exist? St. Thomas picked up this question, of course, and he had 5 ways that he used to demonstrate that God existed. And this is where we're going to pick up next time, because this intellectual tradition of debate and discussion and reason turns itself on the faith itself and asks questions like, does God exist? And if so, can we demonstrate it? And I'm going to suggest that they did it. How did they do it? We'll see next time on The Catholic Church, Builder of Civilization. See you then.